With everything going on, I've barely noticed that I've almost known Nick for a year. Using my bank statements, I could pinpoint the exact day we met. So much has happened that it honestly feels like much longer. I've gained so many new friends, an almost girlfriend and a brother I would fight God to protect if needed. But doing so many cases with Nick caused me to get behind in my paperwork again, and it would be unfair to push it all onto Jimmy and her boyfriend, who worked part-time at the agency to help out. I went into the office extra early, finding it unlocked and someone already inside. I'd never seen the man who stood near the very small sink and used the machine to make some coffee. He turned, almost not expecting to see another person. He didn't have the air of a client about him, and I wondered if he somehow got the wrong office. He was tall, with dark hair and glasses that slid down his face. Pouring a second mug, he offered it towards me. "I wasn't expecting you so soon. Time is weird here, huh?" he said, holding out the hot mug. The moment he spoke, I knew the voice. I never thought we would meet in person. "Morty?" I asked, shocked. "That's me. I get days off once in a while and get to come back to this realm. I wanted to meet the person I've been working for." He took a sip of his coffee, wincing at the heat. I accepted the mug, placing it on my desk. He'd done so much work for me, and I've wanted to properly thank him for a long time. When I did so, he blushed a little, unsure of how to react to a positive conversation. I let him sit down and we talked a little about his plans for the day. He wanted to stay longer, but he only had so much time, and he hadn't really adjusted to having a limited amount of it. If he wanted to get everything done, he needed to get to it quickly. We might meet again in person in another few years if we were lucky. Just before he started to leave after drinking his coffee, I stopped him at the door to thank him for all the work he'd put in so far. "Skylar, listen. After I got stuck where time has no meaning, I've been able to see how everything ends. I decided I didn't want to know how the world ends up, but I've looked forward enough to know something in your future isn't going to be pleasant. Do you think it's worth all the future?" he asked, and kept an eye on the clock. "Oh, I think so. I love them. So that's all that matters for the most part," I said, believing it. "Do I have new scars and constant nightmares from work? Sure. But I also got to meet Nick and everyone else. It all evens out." Smiling at my answer, he nodded, as if he already knew what I would say. "Don't ignore your phone today," Morty told me just before he left the office. I frowned, wondering what he could have possibly meant. I turned up my ringtone just in case, then got to doing paperwork. Jimmy came in to check on any messages, then got back to working on a few cases. She really could use some help. I would soon need to hire more people for the office. Tippy was the next person to come inside. He'd gotten the hang of using the computer to look up lost pet listings. He hadn't gotten around to buying a laptop of his own, so he used the one at the office for work. After gathering a few new jobs to work on, he left again, leaving the office silent aside from me shuffling papers around or typing. I'd thought no one else would come to the office that day. We rarely got clients coming in unless they had arranged it ahead of time. A few short knocks came from the door, and, to my surprise, Abarash came through. "I was hoping you were free today," she said, while walking over and sitting on the chair at the other side of my desk. I'd put aside the papers and completely forgot about my work the moment I saw her face. Our relationship had been pretty casual for a while now. I honestly didn't know how she saw me. I knew we cared for each other, but I wouldn't consider us officially dating yet. Recently, I considered sitting down and talking with her about the idea. I wanted us to settle down as a real couple after I recovered from the last surgery I planned on getting in the next few months. Reaching over, she took my hand and I held hers back. "I might be free. What do you have planned?" I asked, a shy smile coming to my face. "There is still that seafood place with crab legs as long as my arm. I'm buying. We can make a day of it. Unless you have other plans." Leaning over, she raised an eyebrow, suggestively making me laugh a little, which caused her to laugh as well. I covered the distance to kiss her. just because I felt like it. I might have taken her out for an early dinner and then somewhere much more suggestive if my phone hadn't started ringing. She pleaded with me to just ignore it. Even if I hadn't paid attention to Morty's warning, I would have answered it because Nick's number came up. I told her he was on the other end, and she rolled her eyes playfully, thinking I would just see what he wanted, but that she came first that day. If he asked me to do a job, I would refuse for the first time. "Hey, Snickers, is this important?" I asked the moment I picked up. Abarash suppressed a giggle at the nickname. I didn't think anyone at the corporation knew what I called him. I hoped this wasn't for a job. After all, I wasn't entirely sure if he was ready enough for one yet. No answer came, but I thought I heard some sound on the other end. I pressed the phone harder to my ear, trying to hear. "Nikki, did you call me by accident?" I said, hoping for an answer. Straining to hear, I noticed how worried Abarash started to look at the exchange. It would be hard for him to butt dial with a flip phone. Did he call but couldn't speak for some reason? I thought I heard some music in the distance, the sounds faint and crackling with static. Please help." The faint voice of my partner caused me to jump to my feet with the phone still pressed to my ear. I opened my mouth to ask him what was wrong, but feared I may talk over something important when Nick's voice came through clearer the second time. "Don't come." His voice got cut off by loud sounds. Gunshots, someone screaming, and the sound of a crashing explosion that faded into the same music I'd heard when I was much younger. The phone cut out, and Abarash stood, ready to jump into action. She'd heard some of what had come from the phone, but not a lot. I told her what I could, and she asked about the music. When I said it sounded almost like a fair or a carnival, her face showed clear signs of worry. She swiftly started making calls and took my wrist. We needed to find out where Nick had called from. I had a feeling she knew way more than what I did. Abarash quickly got us into the new corporation offices. I could barely keep up as she half-jogged down the hallway, still calling and asking other agents if they'd seen Nick, or if anyone had been on a job with him. Turning a corner, she bounced off a large figure who saved her from falling by grabbing her arm. She jerked away, a scowl on her face, when she noticed she had ran directly into Anker. I'd weirdly been getting along with him recently, but I knew they hated each other. I never asked the reason why, though, and right then was not the time to get into it. They spoke in a different language which unnerved me. It was as if she didn't want me to know about my own partner. Stress started to build up in my stomach until I almost couldn't take it. Finally, Anker gestured for all of us to follow him. Abarash looked shocked. He wanted me to come along as well. If they didn't bring me with them, I might have fought to go anyway. The grumpy man probably wanted to avoid such an outcome and just let me follow along. 2 days ago, we sent agents into a place to retrieve some lost humans. I just received word that they came back out. However, one agent is missing, Anker said as he stopped in front of an office door. With the door shut, he quickly started on some spell work, using his claw to dig into the wall instead of using a maker. It was a good thing that spells faded after they were used. "Why would you let Nick go somewhere?" Abarash started, offended. I did not. He went in on his own. I am just learning of all of this now. Anker interjected. He opened the door to a gloomy beach located somewhere in the world. He rushed through, finding a group of people huddled together. The sky was gray and dark, and the air so salty it stuck to my clothing. The beach had pebbles instead of sand. This place wasn't a vacation spot, and I doubted anyone would come here unless it was for fishing. I could hear the faint music in the distance, causing my heart to leap into my throat. 4 agents were with a medical team and tending to 2 humans. As we walked over, I saw one of the agents had a very pale face and red eyes. No matter who spoke with him, he didn't react. His eyes stared forward emptily, seeing something no one else could. His mind appeared to be elsewhere, somewhere dark. I paced, creating grooves in the pebbles as I waited for Abarish and Ankare to come back over from speaking with the agents. I noticed a cliff covered by fog, and I could have sworn music drifted from there on occasion. They came back, Abarash now looking how I felt. The place up ahead is something beyond what the corporation can handle. We assumed it to be a much different thing until the agents came out. It is currently called the Dark Carnival, but it has been around for a very long time, shifting its appearance to lure in victims. It is Ankare explained, sounding far too calm. We need to get inside right now and get Nick back. Any information can wait for after we're out. Skylar, Abarash started but was again cut off. You are staying behind. Myself and the human shall be the ones to go inside, Ankare stated. We both looked at him with mouths open. He hated humans and didn't trust them with anything. And yet, he preferred to take me along instead of Abarash, who had magic to defend herself. She bristled, ready for a fight. What? You think because I'm a woman, I'm too emotional to go inside? She accused, causing the other agents to look over. You have never been stupid. I would never leave you behind for such petty reasons. This place twists memories and forces people to face dark parts of their past. This human has broken through a night. Abarash gritted her teeth as she listened. Ankare was the only person she got worked up over. I'd never seen her so angry before, but she dealt with her rage better than him. Seeing her so upset distracted me for a few seconds from the fact that Ankare had given me a compliment. My head snapped over to him once that fact sank in. Not only did he say I could deal with something supernatural better than both of them, it almost felt as if he was asking Abarash to stay back for her own safety. This didn't make any sense. When did he get to be so nice? I didn't understand the shift from how he acted when we first met to, well, all of this. She did not want to be left behind. When they started to speak in another language again, and their conversation got heated, I stepped between them to keep an actual fight from breaking out. Abarash needed to step away to collect herself for a few moments. Ankare got ready to leave once he knew that Abarash wouldn't follow us. He stood with his arms crossed, watching her speak with the others, and help them get back to the office for treatments. I looked over to the fog and spotted some buildings that were barely visible inside it. The music got slightly louder as if trying to lure us inside. Nicolas was not on this case. Why would he go off on his own and go inside? Ankare asked, following my line of sight. You said this place makes a person face their past, right? I think he wanted to do that. He doesn't remember much, and I feel as if he's been looking for answers. I said, trying to think back to everything that happened after the office had been attacked. Lacking memories is for his own good. Ankare replied. That's up to him to decide. I corrected. For a long time, Nick had been recovering from the death of his partner. She died 10 years ago, but to him it had happened recently. Her name and everything else had been sealed away for his own good. He'd been able to recall her name around Christmas without any issues, but I hadn't told anyone about that yet. I knew he was almost ready to face his past, yet no one else appeared to think so. Looking over to see if anyone might be listening in, Ankare leaned down a little to ask another question. You're his partner. I'll listen to your opinion. If you think he's ready, I'll give you answers after we get Nicholas back, he said in a low voice, trying not to be heard. I opened my mouth to speak, but he went on. However, understand that having these answers means not being able to go back. I stared up at him, my mind trying to figure out what he meant. If Nick would be fine, then what would be the problem? Surely there wasn't anything in his past that could affect me, right? I thought back to how he acted after he woke up and was still a little cracked. For a short while, my partner had been soft-spoken and vulnerable. Instead of his normal, emotionless self, would he turn into someone else if he found out everything? I shook my head, trying to dispel my fears. He would always be someone I cared about, no matter how his manner changed. Accepting what happened in his past was the first step of his healing and becoming truly happy. I'll be there for him no matter what we find out, I said, believing my words. For a moment, Ankar looked almost sad. He straightened up when Abarash came by to give me a hug and wish us luck on getting Nick back safe. The taller man gave her a disgusted look when she planted a kiss on my cheek. Knowing it bothered him, she gave me a few more. I felt the back of my shirt get pulled as he started to drag me along and towards the fog. My stomach started to flip, unsure of what we would face inside. Soon he released my collar, and I fell in close behind him. The fog overtook our vision, covering the world in a dense whiteness. I needed to walk pretty much on Ankar's heels in order to not get lost. Be alert. There is no telling what. He started. His voice cut off as he jumped, holding his wrist as if he just got shocked. He stepped back a little, staring down, flustered. I tried reaching over to take the cuff of his sleeve, unaware he would react in such a way. I'd gotten so comfortable holding Nick's hand in dangerous situations that I just figured it would be safer if I held into Ankar's sleeves, so we wouldn't get separated. I thought you were interested in Abarash, he said, stunned, still rubbing his sleeve. I flustered, not believing how wrong he took the action. I didn't want to get lost, you dork, I shouted back, regretting my insult choice. His face twisted in embarrassment. Then, in a rage he managed to keep down. He suggested I hold onto the back of his jacket, but I didn't want my vision to be blocked. He gave in and let me hold his sleeve, but warned me not to touch his hand. I wondered if he had a weird complex about people holding his hand, or was going all homophobic on me. We finally started walking again, Ankar appearing very uncomfortable, but I thought that was fine. He needed to be put in his place once in a while. Are you dating Abarash? He asked as we walked through the fog. I nearly tripped over my own feet. What was with this guy all of a sudden? Why would he care about something like that? Sort of. I answered back instead of telling him it's none of his business. Don't. She's too old for you to start with. And she isn't over her previous partner. She's only using you. Attraction may be blinding you from seeing clearly. I tightened my grip on his sleeve, wanting to tell him off. He wasn't my father, or even a friend. It wasn't his place to tell me who to date. And I never got the impression Abarash was upset over an old breakup or an ex. She never mentioned such a thing, or even acted like she was recovering from something like that. Hate can blind you too, I added, unable to help myself. He stopped walking, his eyes nearly glowing in the mist. I thought I made him angry for a second. If I did, he kept it in. I have my reasons for hating her. This is one of them. She'll do anything to achieve her own goals, and that includes hurting everyone who loves her. We have known each other since we've been children. I've seen how she acts more than... Are you trying to protect me from something? I asked slowly. It's what I've been trying to do from the start. You humans are far too small and weak to save yourself. I wanted to question him further. I desperately wanted to know why being with Abarash would cause him to warn me away in such a manner. He had a bad temper, but wasn't an overly unreasonable person. If he wanted me to stay away, it was definitely because of something I wasn't aware of. A gust of wind parted the fog, causing me to lift my hand to shield my face for a moment. Ankar got ready for a fight, his arm jerking from my grasp and his claws growing as he crouched. The fog still lingered around in the distance, making it appear as if the carnival was the only thing left on Earth. We stood in the middle of a long line of games with flashing lights. A Ferris wheel turned slowly off in the distance, and faint music played from somewhere nearby. I heard some games going off, and aside from the fact that there were no people around, it looked and sounded like a normal fair. By the time I noticed someone coming in from my blind spot, it was too late. My side burned as I felt something warm starting to spread. Ankar pushed me aside but found himself unable to attack the figure. My hand flew to my side and felt a handle of a knife sticking out. The pain hadn't come yet due to the shock. Looking over, I saw who had come out of nowhere to stab me. They looked like Nick, but lacked his face. Where it should be, there was nothing but a scramble of static which concealed their features. Even so, Ankar couldn't harm something that looked like the person he swore to protect. With more of those figures coming out from between booths, I knew we needed to do something. My voice caught when a hand grabbed my face from behind to keep my head still as another knife appeared at my throat. The blade pressed down in a cruel slash, and I felt the blood pooling in my throat, causing me to choke on it. My body collapsed to the ground, and my brain couldn't keep up. This simply couldn't be happening. I refused to die before reaching Nick. My only hope that Ankar healed me the way he had before. My vision faded before he even turned around to see what had happened. I knew I died, and yet my eyes opened again. The pain of the wounds that killed me started to fade, and the knife wounds healed over. I sat up just as Ankar grabbed my wrist to haul me to my feet. On unsteady legs, I ran with him as he knocked aside those false partners. I said, unable to think about the pain and fear of dying. Death is not permanent in this place. It is a way to mentally tort. As we ran, I looked over to see one of the fake Nicks holding a gun. With one shot, he killed me, cutting off my world again. Even knowing I could die and come back didn't make it better at all. The bullet tore through my head, causing me to collapse, and everything went black at once for a second. The experience being one of the worst things I've ever gone through. Just before my brain shut down, my entire body became overtaken with fear of this happening over and over again, without any way to stop it. This time I woke up being carried and wrapped in Ankar's jacket as some sort of protection. I heard more gunshots, causing me to scream and cling to him. The bullets bounced off the fabric, but some stung like a bitch. Thankfully, none appeared to be able to harm Ankar as he ran looking for cover. "You need to fight back. They're not him," I shouted up at him, seeing his features change to make him appear more beast-like. "I cannot know for certain," he argued back. I understood he didn't want to hurt the real Nick by accident, but I could tell he wasn't here. Nick would rather die again and again than fire a shot at someone he cared about. As we ran, I spotted a house of mirrors. I directed Ankar to go over to it. Whatever might be inside could be bad, but we were sitting ducks out in the open, so he changed our direction and started towards the building. The moment we reached the door, I told him I could walk. I would hold onto his sleeve again while inside. For the moment, the gunshots died down, making me think we made the right choice. My hand trembled as I kept a hold of his shirt, causing him to look down. "You are too frightened. I should not have brought you here," he admitted. "I'm scared as hell and I don't want to die again, but that doesn't mean I regret being here. We need to keep pressing on." My body shook under the jacket, and I could barely stay upright, but I refused to give up. That appeared to be a quality Ankar hadn't come across before. A hint of pride showed on his face, and he placed a hand on my shoulder, trying to steady the smaller, trembling human at his side. That gesture was one I doubted he gave often. When we both felt ready, we started to walk forward, still looking for Nick, in order to bring him back home.